See, now I gotta go back and edit. Hey, what's up, you guys? This is Rob from A Gay Guy Plays, and today on another installment of Rob Reads You Shit You Are Probably Not Gonna Read Yourself, we actually have a little bit of a live audience. I'm actually doing this on stream because this was tweeted out, so I'm kind of like, hey, let's go and make this work. I'll take care of the stream. They can see all of my feelings on the new Devworkshop that's out for more changes with Saryn. So I'm really excited. I had little chats with Pablo this weekend about some stuff, so I want to see what gets worked in. We also have a little bit of loots going on in the background, so if you see that, please do ignore it. But let's go ahead and leave ado. So, this is posted by D.E. Danielle. If you're learning about Saryn's revisiting, this is a follow-up of the original workshop, changes that went live in update 22.20.0. So it's a revisit now. It's like multiple visits. Thank you for the follows. So please keep in mind that everything you read in this dev workshop is subject to change from the posting time right up to the day time it launches and beyond. Well, here we are. We're coming up on a week of having reworked Saryn on PC, and it's clear from what we've been reading in your feedback that you've all been busy testing her new kit. At the forefront of this workshop is Saryn's Spores. Being more drastically modified in the first iteration change was to be anticipated. In this workshop, we'll aim to break down the changes to Spore coming in a future PC update. Feedback is welcomed and encouraged as long as it comes in its most constructive of forms. AKA, don't be a little bitch. Don't be a little bitch about it. We don't need none of that shit, alright? That's their nice way. That's DE's nice way. As long as it comes in its most constructive of forms. Fuck you if you want to tell us our shit's stupid. And I agree. Be nice. And yup, you guessed it. Everything you read below is subject to change prior to and after launch. So let's get into it. Here is what we are looking at changing with Spores. It can be recast while active and will no longer detonate active spores. Keep talking about that. Based on feedback, detonating on recast felt like an unnatural transition from Saryn's original makeup. So in an effort to maintain her roots, we've removed the detonate mechanic on recast so that stores can be cast onto multiple targets. Yes! With this came the need to find a space where Spores escalating damage and its reinstated recast, sans detonations, can live harmoniously together. That said, recasting on infected enemies will put new spores on a target with a 20% decrease to its periodic damage for 50% of the energy cost. Alright, so Future Rob here popping in with a little bit of a message from Pablo himself, who was actually hiding in stream. I don't know if he was lurking in or if he'd actually typed out in chat that he was there, but he wanted to make sure that, you know, I understood everything that was going on, and I did need some clarification on something. Like I had just said, when recasting on infected enemies will put spores on a target with a 20% decrease to its periodic damage for 50% of the energy cost. So, what this means, alright, straight from the horse's mouth itself, is that, you know the little ticker on the side of your screen? When you recast a new instance of Spores, number one, it's going to cost 50% less energy. It'll still maintain the rest of the spores that are out there in the universe, but the damage ticker will go down by 20%. So all of the spores damage that you're going to be doing across the land is all going to be even, but every time you recast spores, it'll take it down by another 20%. So if you cast it too much, you can actually, you know, hurt your spores damage a lot, but if you're just trying to spread the spores, then it's not really that big a deal. So again, just to clarify, the 20% loss that we're going to be seeing is from the damage ticker that you see on the little side, and it's going to reduce the damage, the current tick damage, by 20%. It'll still grow, don't worry about that. But the whole thing about it is to make sure that you can spread them, but not completely nerf you completely by resetting the damage in any way, shape, or form. But just know, if you cast it a lot, like if you cast Spores 5 times back to back to back to back, you're going to reduce your counter by a lot, because that's 20% minus another 20% minus another 20% minus another 20%. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys, is the 20% is just going to be reduced from your spore counter, and it'll slowly grow back up with everything that you got infected. So hopefully that's clear. Hopefully I got that right, Pablo. If not, just message me and I'll leave a comment correcting it. But that's what I got from our conversation. Regardless, I'm going to go ahead and pass you back to Past Rob. Fixed inconsistent spreading ranges. The most common report we requested, we looked the seemingly inconsistency spread of nature of spores. After rummaging around in the code for an answer, we discovered that an unintended mechanic that determined the range based on specific action taken. We'll call this spread condition. Currently, if you do anything other than directly shoot a spore or hit but not kill an enemy with toxic lashes active, the range is half of its intended value. In order to fix these inconsistencies, we've removed this mechanic and established new standard base range across the board regardless of spread conditions. Okay, so I guess that enemies, that's what the issue was. The spore spread range was not as good on certain things. So the spread condition, when you shoot a spore, the old base range was 16 meters across the board. When hitting but not killing an enemy with toxic lash active, it was 16 meters across the board. When killing an enemy with or without toxic lash on, it's 8 meters as old base range. And that's something that we actually had before, right? We definitely had that before where an enemy that just dies didn't have as big a range. But now they're kind of like making everything even across the board. So killing an enemy, that's 8 meters, so you get 16 meter spread. When an ally kills an enemy, it's also going to be a 16 meter spread. It used to be an 8 meter spread. When a Spore's tick damage kills an enemy, it's also going to be an 8 meter spread. We've outright removed spread on enemies that die to Spore's tick damage. Wait, what? We've outright removed Spore's spread on enemies that die to Spore's tick damage, being the wholly passive way to spread spores. Ooh, that kind of hurts. It allowed for that set it and forget it playstyle we were trying to combat with Saryn in the original workshop. Ooh, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Spore damage growth over time per spore is now determined per enemy infected. And with it, a max limit of 10 infected enemies. And with it, a max limit of 10 infected enemies to maintain a max. Oh, okay. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. I read that wrong. And with it is a max limit of 10 infected enemies to maintain a max damage growth limit over time. Oh, I nearly died. Jesus. To better explain this change and how it all breaks down, let's explore it further by comparing its current state to its change state. Current. Damage growth is determined per spore. So 1 damage per spore every second. For example, let's say there's 5 enemies. You cast spores on one of the enemies in that group. 3 spores are now active on that enemy. Damaging that enemy with Toxic Lash disperses a single spore to the surrounding 4 enemies for a grand total of 7 spores. 4 enemies with a single spore plus the 3 original spores on the initial cast. This maintains a damage growth of 7 every second. Interesting. Okay, interesting. Okay. Changed. Damage growth is determined per enemy infected. So 2 damage can be modified with ability strength, I like that, per enemy infected by spores every second up to a maximum of 10 enemies. So that's 20, that should be 20 damage a second, right? Or, 20 damage a second at its base. So using that example, 5 infected enemies would set the damage growth to 10 every second. Damage growth of X times the number of enemies infected up to 10. Reaching 10 infected enemies would set the maximum damage growth at 20 every second. That's actually not bad. For the sake of best describing the intent of this change, we'd like to point out some of the unexpected irony between both workshops. While work on Saryn began very early this year, the first assumption was that the change would amidst her performance in Elite Sanctuary Onslaught. We actually ended up transpiring post-rework was quite opposite. Saryn, as she is now, continues to take charge in Onslaught, more so now than before. However, she's a bit of a one-cast wonder in Samaris' realm. Sitting back and watching Spores destroy a map didn't fall in line with the fun factor we were looking for with Saryn, and especially not for the other members in Saryn's squads. Damage per second will decay instead of vanquishing once no infected enemies remain. This is very similar to what I asked for. First appear, okay, so we're talking about the damage ramp up, right? We're talking about the damage ramp up, right? And then when Spores is gone, normally Spores is gone. But this time, damage per second will decay kind of like Naramon's decaying, you know, melee combo counter, right? First, the periodic damage you've accumulated will instantly drop by 20, okay, which will then commence the decay of the remaining damage by 10% per second, can be modded with duration. Decaying can be observed in the periodic damage meter located above Saryn's ability icons. Nullifying effects, including the data conduits, increase the decay by 30 per second. Okay, so it's not completely gone. Okay, alright, so let's just cover the basics of this real quick. They fixed the Spores spread. You can now recast Spores. The damage on the recast Spores are going to be like a little bit lower, which is fine. Alright, the damage is going to be determined by how many enemies are affected by the Spores. That and it's 2 damage per second, which will increase with power strength. So no longer are we really going to be hearkening for the overextended Saryn, right? Because we want to make sure that that damage stays high. In addition, when the Spores die out completely, we still get to keep the spore counter. We just got to find a new target to put Spores on and let it get up in its damage. Holy shit! Okay! I am really fucking excited. I don't know, chat. I want to know if chat is excited too, but more importantly, I want to know if you guys in the comment sections are hype about this as well. Because, I mean, listen, we gotta test it, we gotta play it, we gotta see how it all goes. But now, basically, we have Naramon's, like, combo meter preserving thing built into Saryn's Spores. And that's kind of fucking dope. I mean, legitimately, if you're able to keep it up for a while, you can toss on a 2000 damage Spore onto an enemy straight out the gate, just as long as you can get it on another enemy ASAP. And this helps prevent the whole, what was it? It was kind of like the issue that some people had with Chroma. Like, if you let his buffs drop, his buffs are completely gone. Now, at least this way, you're able to maintain some of that. Okay, I'm excited. I'm excited. So leave all of your feelings down in the comments below. Are you guys jazzed about this as well? And that about does it for me for now. So as always, and I would love it if, chat's probably on a delay, so they're probably not going to be able to say this, but you know how this all ends, right? If you can get it in here at the last second, I'll be into it. But as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.